Hello everybody, welcome back. So earlier I put out, not on a Friday, which is very unusual for me, a little video creating the pattern from this _pattern. So I did that separate because __ is kind of a specialty thing, and if you're not really into it, it can take a while to do it. So there's a separate video creating my pattern. Now I'm going to be making a robe, and it's a flannel robe. It's really nice flannel. You can see it is plaid, very large plaid, and I'm going to attempt to match it. I think I have enough that I can space things out to match my plaid. So I thought that since plaid matching is kind of a thing, if you're not used to it, it's kind of a cool concept. It's like a big puzzle. So that's what I'm going to do this time. So let me go ahead, turn the camera down, and we'll get started. Okay, so first of all, with __ you make your own patterns. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that they're actually going to match up. And look, if I put it together up here at this little underarm area, I'm matching up my front and back here. It is too long on the back. Now I know I always get comments when I do this that, oh, they just make the backs longer so you can ease them in and all of that. I don't want to have to ease in anything, especially when I am matching plaids. Easing while matching plaids is like a disaster. So, well, that's not going to work. Let me bring it over here. So what I'm going to do is just over here where the end of this paper is, draw a little line right there. And I'm going to blend it down so it's going to match up to my bottom edge over here. It's going to look like it's kind of at a diagonal, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a robe. It can be a little bit swoopy, So I'm going to go ahead and cut this here and call it good. Okay, so one little thing I want to show you. So this is the bottom of the front of my robe. And it's going to look like I said before, like this is the center front and it overlaps a little bit because it's a robe. It's going to look like this is longer than over here. Well, here's the thing. Usually, when I'm adapting a pattern, I have to make more of a full bust adjustment. And when you do that, you naturally have to lower the very front anyway. And when you lower the very front with a full bust adjustment, once you add the extra padding in up here, it's going to raise it up so it's all going to level out. So that is not an issue for me. Okay, so first of all, let me say everybody has their own method. Everybody has their own preference. So you do you. I'm just going to show you the way I'm doing it. And the first piece that I'm going to be working with is my front piece. Ignore the phone. And so just because I had a ginormous piece of flannel and it was a bit cumbersome, what I did is I tore off a piece that looked like it was a couple inches longer than what that piece is. And my front piece is the one that I'm going to be basing everything else off of. So thankfully, I don't need to do any matching when I cut this first one. But what I am going to do, I have pre-washed this in hot, pre-dried it on high heat, and now I'm just going to iron it, but I'm making sure that when I fold it in half to iron it, that I have my plaids matched up exactly, and I'm just pinning them along the edge, and then I'm going to iron it, and I'll have a nice crease at the other side, so that I can make sure that when I put my pattern on top of it, everything underneath it is going to be matching. And I also wanted to show you, I've got it pinned across at the selvage edge, but before I get started working my way down, I'm making sure that I have this part matching also. So I do serge the edges of my pieces when I'm going to run them through the washer and dryer, just so they won't fray. And if you take a good look, you'll see that the serging is whacked. So I took my old Burnett serger up to my shop so I can give her a good clean and service. It's been many years. I've been neglectful of her, and brought my backup serger up onto my table. So we will have one to use. That's not a problem. But I just want to make sure this is matching up here. And then I can go ahead and get the rest of the piece ironed out. If you don't want to go through all of this, you know, pinning and matching as you're ironing kind of thing, you can always just cut out your pieces one at a time. And I'll probably do that for some of the other pieces of this garment. But for right now, for the very first one, I think that this will work out. Okay, back here, and I wish my camera was mounted on my ceiling, but it's not anymore, so you could see more. But what I want to show you is the way that I'm going to lay this out. This is a small picture of my pattern piece, okay? I want to make sure that this front piece is on the straight. And because I did pre-wash this and pre-dry this, and I can see that my selvage is not going to pucker. It's very, very nice. This is a fabulous piece of fabric. I'm going to use my selvage edge right there as my straight, you know? Why double my work if I don't have to? So I'm just going to lay this on here, make sure that it fits on my fabric, and cut it out. So this is going to be the easy one. From this point, everything else is going to need to match somehow to this piece. So let me go ahead, just pin it down, get it cut out. I have my seam allowances added on, and I'll be right back. Now I wanted to point out, I have it pinned. Actually, I'm going to put one more pin here. But I'm also pinning the fabric outside of where I'm going to be cutting, because since I went through all of that work to get it matched up and folded in half correctly, I don't want that to come apart, so I've got those pins out. So yeah, I got a lot of really nice cotton flannel, and this is very wide. I'm thinking it's 60 inches wide. It was on a tube, so it's hard to tell without measuring, but that's what it looks like to me. And so this is probably going to be my fall and winter of flannel. A few years ago, I bought a whole bunch of corduroy off of Facebook Marketplace, and I had like 10 corduroy projects. Well, it's probably going to be flannel, just saying. I'm into comfort right now. And come in here and get this cut out. Okay. Now on my front piece, this line here is where my facing needs to be. So since I have that fabric cut out, I'm going to go ahead and pull these pins off here, grab some suitable for paper scissors, and cut this line here. And if I ever want to use this pattern again, I can just, you know, pin them next to each other, so that's fine. You're not doing any permanent damage or anything, you know. Okay, so this is going to be my facing piece now, so I'm going to need to cut out one of these also. Okay, so before I cut out my facing piece, I'm going to need to make sure I have it matched right, because I want this plaid to wrap around, you know. Doesn't have to be, obviously. Most store-bought ones do not have it that way, but you know, I do want that. So while I have my facing, I probably should have done this before I cut it, but you know, laid where I need to, what I want to do is figure out where all my little red pieces are, and I'm going to be marking it. Oh, my red pencil is toast. I think I need to grab a crayon, but look at that. I'm going to need to resharpen this. Let me go downstairs, use my real pencil sharpener, sharpen this up, and then I'll finish my thought. All right, I think that's about as good as I can get it, because this thing kept breaking. Crappy little Crayola pencil. I think while all the back to school sales are going on, I'm going to go and get myself a new set of colored pencils. Okay, I got my weights kind of holding things in check. Out of breath, I just ran up the stairs. So what I'm doing is, on my plaid, there's longer sections of red. And let's see here. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the side ones. Okay, because I'm marking my center front right now. So basically where this section is, I'm going to color that whole thing in red, and where these are, a little bit of red. All the way up the front center, and the same thing over there where the side seam is. And if I get my act together, up there where my shoulder seam is. Don't worry about the hem. We don't need that. So, look here. And again, you know, if you color in the seam allowance, that is just fine. But the main point is that at the seam line, because that's actually where it's going to be matching up, that's the point that you get. Okay? So give me a few minutes to play Arts and Craftsy, and I'll be back. Okay, so that is done all the way around. I'm going to leave this attached for right now, but I'll have to deal with it again when I'm cutting out my back piece, and just set that aside. Now on that part that I cut off, because I have extra wide flannel, I'm going to set this piece onto it so that these marks that I drew line up with the red lines on there. I think I figured out a way to get my little tripod thing higher, because it kept wanting to fall forward here. So I have tied it to my IV pole, which holds my iron water, with a little piece of flannel, so it's just held up because this thing, it kept wanting to fall forward. Now, I might have a little bit of loosey-goosey movement because I need to figure that out, but at least you're going to be higher up, because I used to have it mounted on the ceiling, but I have my projector up on the ceiling. And honestly, I don't know why that is turned on. It needs to be off. Okay, so now we can see a little bit better. So what I wanted to show you is on this one, I am looking at this side here. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that it is straight up and down this way, okay? So, you know, in line with the plaid. Now, I also, once I have it this way, I want to shift it so that my little marks, my little red marks, are matching up all the way up here with the plaid that I have going across. And that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to go ahead, throw some weights down so they don't move while I pin it, because I am a pinning it kind of person. I don't trust myself without it. And even when I cut this out, I think I'm still going to have room over here to cut out my pockets and maybe even that belt. So lots of room on this, lots of room. So yeah, let me go ahead and get this cut out. Now, this over here does not have a seam allowance, but I think when I was making my pattern, I made this about 1/2 inch wider than what would typically be called for, I'm thinking. So because it's the edge of a facing, I'm just going to finish it off and turn it under, so that's just fine. I'm not adding any seam allowance here, in case anyone was wondering. Now I need to tell you, I'm kind of debating on cutting out my pocket piece right now, because I'm not sure exactly where it's going to fall on that front, and if I wanted all of my plaids to match seamlessly, I should probably wait to cut this out or I can get my front piece out here and then draw those color marks on it where I want that to be. Or I can say, it's a robe, I don't care, you know. I'm torn, I'm really torn on that, but because I'm torn, I'm going to set it aside for a minute. I do have my collar pieces, and I am going to cut these out. It's going around the neckline. I'm not going to worry about matching plaids on that neckline, but this needs to lay on the fold here. So I do want that to be somewhat symmetrical, so I'm going to use the center of this dark one here for that fold line. And put this here. And place this here, and then at least I will have my collar. Oops, you can't see that. My collar will be, you know, centered on the plaid. It might not match exactly to the collar cutout on the robe itself, but nobody's going to care about that. It's an odd angle, you know. So let me go ahead. I have 2 of these that I'm cutting out on a fold at the same time, and then I'll be back. And I was just thinking I should mention. And honestly, if this video is about matching plaids, I should. Okay. This piece should be this direction, because on my garment, the red stripes are going across, the blue stripes are going up and down. But again, who's going to care? I'm not going to care. I'm going to go back. If you really wanted these stripes on your collar to go straight across like the others, I would care. And yet, I am not. This flannel is so nice. It's almost like a brushed flannel, and it's like the ones that they made those high-end men's shirts out of, but it's really thick. It's very nice stuff. So let me go ahead and get that cut out. Okay, so I am just going to set this long piece aside here with my pocket so that when I'm ready, I have it all, you know, queued up to be placed. Okay, let me get my back piece out now. All right, so what I have here is my back pattern piece, and I'm just placing it on top of my front, you know, that has the fabric pinned to it. I'm going to flop it down here and get it matched up at the underarm seam. And remember, I leveled it out at the bottom, so it's exactly the same length. And throw some weights on here. Okay, so with it in place like this, once again with my little red pencil, I'm going to come back and copy where those marks are. Red, big red, little kiss, big kiss, little kiss. If you watch Nacho Libre, you get the reference. Okay, I'm going to do that all the way down before I get my fabric out. Okay, so I have that done now. So again, I have a large cumbersome piece of fabric here. So I am just going to measure up from the highest point down to the lowest point, hopefully add a couple inches. I did not last time, and it was exactly what I needed, which is a bit scary. And then just tear it straight across. I think I washed like 4 yards of this, which, because this fabric is so wide, is turning out to be way more than I needed. Okay, so now that I have a more accurate, manageable size here, I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where I fold it in half, pin the plaids together, and give it a nice press so it's going to behave and want to, you know, join with its compatriots there. Now, while I was ironing this, one thing I want to show you is when I just matched the selvage and I ironed it straight across, it wasn't putting the fold smack dab in the middle of this stripe. It was off just a hair. And for what I was cutting out before, where it was, you know, not on the fold, that was fine. But because my back piece is going to be cut with the center back on the fold, I kind of adjusted it so that this is matching up exactly. My selvage is staggered by, you know, a fat 1/8 of an inch or so. So that's fine. So what I'm going to do now, organize my life here, get my fold up there, and it is pinned just so it won't, you know, misbehave, and get this piece and place it so that it is on that fold. And then while that is up there, down here, oh, I drew it on the opposite side. Well, we can fix that. We'll just flip it this way. All right, this plaid, it's the same up and down, so I can do that. So now with it like that, I'm at the very top here, and this is a little too low, so I'm actually going to have to move that down. Ooh, that's not going to fit. I am going to have to do it this way, but that means what I'm going to have to do so that I can look at my coloring marks is flip my fabric upside down, and then I can do it. So give me a second. Okay, so I flipped my fabric upside down, And now the stripes are in the orientation that I can get it to line up. My fat lines with the fat, skinny with the skinny, all the way down. So let me just make sure it's matching up there on the fold. Again, throw a couple weights to hold it still while I pin it. And, oh my goodness. Okay, like that. Double check. Look at that, I skewed things up. What I want to do is I want to pin it, and then before I actually cut it, I'm going to kind of open my fabric up and take a peek to make sure that these are still matched up with the bottom layer, okay? Okay, so if you can see, I've got it pinned, and now I'm going to open this. Oops, I need to pull out a pin down here. Very carefully. Pull out another pin here. I've got pins all over the place. Okay, and pull this back just to where that pattern piece is and see if everything is still lining up here. And it is. So that's great, so I can feel really comfortable with that. Fold this back down, and now I can cut out my back piece. Okay, so my back piece is now cut out on a fold, looking lovely. And now it's time for my sleeve. So this is my back armhole. This is my back of my sleeve, and I'm going to match up this corner up here. Put, again, my weights to kind of hold it in place. Get my very crappy little red pencil where the lead is already breaking again. And I want to come down here and once again matching up to the fabric underneath the pattern pieces here, marking where the red and the short and the long pieces of this red are, basically. Here, here, and here. Okay, now the other thing is on this pattern piece, drop my crappy red pencil. Okay, it did not give me a center line, and I want, usually the center is on the straight. So just for ease of everything, first of all, I want to make sure that my two lengths of my sleeve are going to match up, because, you know, sometimes that's an issue with these patterns. So if I line that up and fold it, for one thing, that's going to give me my center fold line. It's also going to give me a line to keep on the straight of grain. But when I did this, I noticed down here at the bottom, things are a little bit wonky at the very bottom edge. So just to make my life easier, I'm going to line up my ruler so that it has a straight on the straight of green there. At the highest point here, I can see where the shortest part of that little sleeve is. Draw a line straight across. And again, with my paper appropriate scissors here, cut straight across. When you're making these letter low patterns, they are fairly good, but you do need to true things up. There's just so many bizarre little measurements. It's just the way things are, you know. Now coming down this side, is this going to match up here? Well, yeah, pretty much, but I can see that down here, you can't see it. Down here, you see how it's sticking out, like maybe a 1/4 inch. Again, just to make my life easier, and I probably should have done this in the last video, but my camera ran out of juice. I'm going to go ahead, draw this cutting line on there, and that's going to give me a place to trim this so everything will be nice and happy, okay? Okay, so now, hopefully, if I lay this on my plaid, you know, with the straight, and I line up this side's going to match up also. I could get my front piece out here and color it just to make sure. And honestly, it only takes a couple minutes, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so let me show you what I got here. This is my front piece. This is my sleeve, and I marked on this side, so I want to mark it again on the same side, but I have to put it face down in order to match over here. So I'm just kind of folding it back at my stitching line, and just ignore that where I trimmed up my stitching line's a bit wonky now, okay? And then I can lean that right up here so my stitching lines are matching. And then come back, my red thing. Oh my gosh, will this pen work? Yes, the pen will work, yay. Well, not where the tape is. I have Scotch tape there. Unfortunately, crud. But what I wanted to show you is that it actually is matching up with everything, I believe. When I put it onto the fabric, we'll see. Okay, so now if I turn it this way, this is my sleeve piece. I've got my little colorful cheat sheet marks going up both of the sides. And I have my fold line to match on the straight. Okay, so I want to show you, this fold is not dead center in one of these spots. But I have no idea, I wasn't paying attention too much to where that side seam on my shoulder line, what everything was going on up there. So I'm not too concerned about this right now. I think it's more important that I get this. And that's how I'm matching up these pieces. So just thought I would say that. Now look, the way I have it set here, yeah, it fits that way, but this is definitely not correct. So I'm going to need to lower it so that this fat mark is at a fat place here, right there. I think that will work. And I want to make sure it's the same over here. Well, kind of, sort of. Okay, so if I match it up over here and match it up over here, this fold that I made is not exactly, well, no, it is. It is. I must have just had something off. Okay. But at this point, I know you can't see, but over here on that side, those marks are matching up on my plaid. These are matching up on my plaid. So I'm going to go ahead and cut both of my sleeve pieces out. Okay, so now my hood piece. All right. Now, if you remember, when I was cutting my collar, I put that center fold, that little darker line right there in the very center. So what I want to do on this is line it up so my stitching line is in that center. And this may end up being tipped just a bit. I don't think that's a problem. But that way, that line from my collar is going to continue up until it doesn't, you know. So let me go ahead and get this pinned on, and there are two pieces of this that I'm cutting out. Okay, so we are almost done. Now this is my front piece here. Keeping my hand here because I just held this piece up to me so I could get a good idea of where it would be comfortable for me to put a pocket. And it was right here where my hand is. So I'm gonna lay this pocket here like that. I'm actually going to scooch it up just a hair. No, right about there. I think that's going to be good. Okay, so I'm lining it up so it's square here. And if I can get my little pencil to survive, oh my gosh, just a little bit longer, I am going to draw the sides and the bottom. See how I have the red right here? Stupid pencil. All the way down there, over here, and over here. Okay, so this is one side. Hopefully, if I flip my pieces upside down right now, I can double check and it's going to be the same on the other side. But just to make sure, I'm putting some pins on all four sides at the edges of where I have my pockets lined up here, just so I can make sure that I'm placing it in the same location. Okay, so let me pull this up and flip it over. And actually, I need to move this one. Okay. Just ignore all of that. All right, so if I flip my pattern piece back now, and I can see the outline of where I had it on the other side. If I put this down, is it going to match? Yes, it is. Yay. Okay, so now I have a pocket with my little red cheat sheet guide of how I need to cut it out. So it will blend perfectly with the position that I want it on my garment. But you know, no, I think I'm good. I think I'm good, because what I was going to say is I don't have an up and down marked. Hang on a sec, just to double check. I have this in an area like this, okay? So I want to make sure, see this part here? I think I may have to open this up and do it a little bit differently. Hang on. Working in progress here. Okay. So I have this marked, and these, I did not mark that. All right. So if I put this back here, probably not my brightest moment. Lining it up there, getting a red pen here. I need to mark where these red lines are. I know you probably can't even see that. I was marking these two, okay? Because I want to be able to see, this is too close to the edge here. You know, I'm going to be cutting stuff off. I need to match up these red lines. If I come over here, I can match them up, but I need this line, this red line, to be right there. But when I do that, I'm right in the middle of this thing, and I'm only going to be able to cut out one pocket from this whole piece, which feels like a waste. So I'm going to go look for another scrap and see if I can, you know, do it a little bit more logistically. Okay, I found another actually bigger piece, but I can cut them out better up here at the top, and I'm just going to do one at a time. So I've got this first one all lined up. I'm going to get it cut out, and then I need to flip it over, or flip my fabric over, one or the other, and get the other one lined up and cut out. All right, so now that I have that cut out here, it was actually like this. I need to flip it over and match this up again so I can cut out another one. So looks like right about there. Get my flannel straightened out. Okay, let me go ahead and get it pinned down. You know, I just smoosh a couple things, smoosh it together, and then I can cut this out, and then I'll have two opposite pockets that should work really well. All right, so the last thing I need to deal with is my tie. Now, they just have this diagram in the pattern, which says 100 centimeters long to be done on a fold and 6 wide. Okay, so, you know, being that inches are my forte here, if I look, 100 centimeters is here, 39 inches. That is a little shorter than what my robe width is, my fabric width is, but this is wide enough that I think it's going to be fine if I just tear a strip straight across, you know. 6 centimeters is just over 2.5 inches though. That's pretty narrow to me. I'm actually going to make mine a lot wider because I want a belt that's at least that wide, you know. So once I take out my seam allowance, it's going to be like that. So if I cut it at 5 inches, that's going to be a lot happier to me. So that's what I'm going to do. So if I measure from my edge about 5 inches and put my little clip, I can just tear that straight across, and that's the easiest cut of the day. And this is going to be my belt, you know, once I iron it and sew it and turn it right side out and everything. But I do think that that is plenty wide. You know, I don't need a tie that's going to dangle at my toes. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this little piece with this so I don't think it's a scrap. And now I'm done. Okay, so then that's it for cutting out my robe, and that's going to be it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, just throwing it out there, not everybody does it exactly the same way that I do. It's just the way I do it. If you have a method that works better for you, by all means, use it, you know, but I just wanted to walk you through me doing it my way, and hopefully next time we will be putting it together. Now, just a caveat on Letterlow, they do not give you instructions on how to put your garment together. So if you're going to be doing this with one of these types of patterns, or say you have a sewing pattern and the directions have disappeared, what I highly recommend is for you to use a general sewing book. Let me grab one. Okay, so what I'm talking about is something like this, or like this, you know, something that has a good general idea of how to do things, you know, and that way you can look through and get ideas of how you want to attach your collar, how you want to do your hems, how you want to finish off your pockets, because they leave all of that up to you. So, you know, you can just let your creativity do whatever it wants to. So I will be adding trim to this. Very excited about that. But yeah, it's going to be fun, and it's so cozy, and we are in a cool trend right now, so it makes you want to wear flannel a lot more. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.